Hello and welcome to Mindset Mondays with DTK. This is episode number 158 in an ongoing series of live broadcasts designed for folk with a growth mindset or folks who'd like to develop one. This is focused on people who already know that the way to get better at doing what they do is to get better at being who they be. Heard long ago that suffering begins when expectation diverges from reality. And one of the things I realize is that suffering actually begins when success diverges from fulfillment. The quote that I want to play with today, as you saw on that banner just a moment ago, really captures that. And it takes me back to a story of George Mallory. And the idea of the motivation behind climbing the mountain. So climbing the world's tallest mountain is a feat that is not for the faint of heart. Every year we lose people in their attempt to summit Mount Everest. And back in the early 1900s, when George Mallory was asked, well, effectively, what possessed you to plan to climb the world's tallest peak? Now, nobody had done this yet. George Mallory was the first to take a team up to attempt it, the first non-Tibetan that we knew of to attempt to summit. And his response, which seemed sort of flippant on the surface, was because it's there. And what's interesting is terse or not, that spoke to his intrinsic motivation. For Mallory, the accomplishment was for him. It was so he could summit. Now, he had done surveying and assessment climbs on Everest before that. But his desire to summit was so he could slay that dragon, so that he could collect that victory. It wasn't about being seen and celebrated for doing so. It was for him. And that's the quote that I'm playing with today. The idea that you should climb the mountain so that you can see the world, not so the world can see you. I see so many people driven to summit, to achieve a goal, not because they want it, but because they believe they should want it, or worse yet, they attempt it so they can be seen having achieved it. Look, I know. I spent years with a previous company. Leading the way I thought I was supposed to. Trying to achieve in the way that I thought would give me the accolades I wanted. I was shoulding all over the place. Each victory seemed sweet, but it was short-lived, oftentimes a Pyrrhic victory. When it came time to take stock, all I had was that bitter taste left in my mouth of success without fulfillment. Yeah, success can come without fulfillment. Fulfillment comes with such a banquet of flavors of success and failure. For me, fulfillment is what makes the climb worthwhile. I mean, I'm curious as I play with this, what does fulfillment look like for you? Like, how do you distinguish between success and fulfillment? Are they inextricably linked in your world or not? How does that show up for you? And which one drives your goals? Which one drives your behaviors? George Mallory's body was found in 1999, 75 years after he and his climbing partner attempted that final summit. Mallory had taken with him a picture. Can't remember if it was wife or family. Anyway, he brought a small picture with him to leave on the summit. Now, when they found his body in 1999, that photo wasn't in his gear. It wasn't with him. So the argument still rages. There's all kinds of evidence to support both him falling before reaching the summit or having summited and they were descending when they fell. I really hope that he had the chance to stand at 29,029 feet, to stand above the jet stream and see the world from there. Now, if he did summit, nobody saw him, save his partner who was climbing with him. There was nobody else on the mountain at that point that could see up there. Nobody reported back. They lost sight of him a couple hours before he would have reached the summit. But I hope he found fulfillment there. And I'm curious, what is it that fulfillment looks like for you? And where do you find it? And this is climb the mountain so you can see the world, not so the world can see you. Climb for the fulfillment. Every time I talk about those years that I describe as having lived the should life rather than the good life, I remember how much I enjoyed each victory, each, notch on the belt, each win, each client close, each client launch, each expansion, each new revenue mark. But I also remember how short-lived that feeling was. How there was a wanting for something more, but instead of pausing to see what it was that I actually wanted, what was it that would actually move me, I just kept going for more of the same. And you can never really have enough of what you don't really need. So it didn't matter how many zeros we added to the revenue mark. It didn't matter how many commas we added to our revenue. What was missing for me was joy. Not happiness and satisfaction in the moment and being sated temporarily, but joy, that thing that lasts, that intrinsic feeding, that intrinsic recharging of the batteries. My wife and I just celebrated, or are in the middle of celebrating, our 7 1/4th anniversary. We were married on Leap Day, so we don't get the full the full incremental celebration. We celebrate every year, I promise. But we play with it a lot. So this is our 7 1/4th anniversary. A year ago, last night, on our 7th anniversary. We celebrated on the 28th. We were married on the 29th. God, we had a group of friends get together and had an amazing evening. And it was really the last social event that most of us were part of. Things locked down here within the next 2 weeks. And I looked at all the photos again, and Elaine and I talked about it a lot yesterday. how much joy we got out of being together with our community and putting all the pieces in place that allowed that to happen. And the people who moved things around so they could be there to celebrate with us. And the joy of that night was incredible. There are a lot of things we could have done to mark that night. We did something that allowed us to be together with our community, to celebrate with our community. We did something that brought us joy. And it was fantastic. It was incredibly fulfilling. We got to look back on a community that has come together over 28 years that we'd been together. There were people there that had been, oh my God, there are people there that we knew since we were single digits. And people that have been there that every step of our relationship and seeing the community come together, that was incredibly fulfilling. There are lots of things we could have done for our anniversary, lots of ways we could have marked that success. We did something amazingly fulfilling. And our friends came together to make that happen. And frankly, we've carried that energy for a long time. It's been 366 days now. And I look back on the year that's happened. Thanks, Lawrence. Happy Anish. It, I look back at the year that's happened in between, and when I look back at the last year, most of which, almost all of which has been in lockdown, and I look for the successful moments, some of them brought fulfillment. When I look back at the year and catalog the fulfilling moments, the joys that have surfaced, the battery recharge, the fulfilling moments, it's such a rich way to look at the year. It's such a phenomenal way to catalog 12 months of new abnormal and find the remarkable moments, the time with our children that we wouldn't have gotten to have this way. Yeah, our eldest child's wedding was a lot smaller than it would have been, and it was incredibly intimate, and it was a beautiful experience. And it wouldn't have happened that way if it weren't for, I hate the word unprecedented, for the craziness that's been going on for the last year. But every time I pick up the lens of fulfillment or joy, it allows me to redefine and reframe everything that we've been experiencing. And it works. It changes the way this feeds into that you've heard me say it hundreds of times, and I hope that one time that you hear it, it will start to take shape for you. It's that when I change the lens through which I see the world, I change the way I experience. I change my lens, I change my life. And it's so easy to look back at the last 365 days and look at all the things that were missed or lost or hopes dashed, expectations missed. And yet, what changes when you pick up the lens of fulfillment or joy? What changes as you look back? What changes as you look forward? When you look through the lens of fulfillment and joy. And I hope you will this week. This is the first of the month. It's a brilliant time to recalibrate and look forward. New moon, new month, new mindset. Thank you, Agata. Look back at the last week, the last month, the last year. And what do you want to take advantage of? How do you want to reframe it? David says it's easy to forget the great things that happened in the last 12 months. It's a lot easier to remember them when you take off the lens of what it was you wanted. Had a conversation with a client recently about we can keep obsessing over the things that didn't happen. We also we can't sweep them under the rug. It's an invitation to mourn the things you wanted to have happen, you wished would happen, you thought might happen, you dreamed would happen that didn't. Or the things that happen in a way that is different than what you would imagine, what you would hope for, what you would plan for. Mourn what could have been, should have been, would have been. So you can reframe it and look back at it with the lens of joy and fulfillment. And suck the marrow out of whatever it is that happened. It's your choice how you frame it. Again, it's your choice how you frame it. Change your lens, change your world. So, what are you going to do with this new month? How will you create fulfillment? How will you surface joy? It's your world. You get to create it. Pick the lens. So I'd love you to come, and there's a conversation that goes on. I'm live, not just on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. I'm also live on Clubhouse. So after the broadcast, I flip open the mics and the stage is open in Clubhouse for more of a conversation. You're always welcome there as well. And you're always welcome at facebook.com/group/Mindset Mondays to join the conversation there and be here each week. So in between now and next Monday, what mindset will you choose?